All right, so we're here once again here on Couch Coach Live. We got the feel good edition of Couch Coach Live. I got my guy who coined that phrase. I got my guy Sean Robertson of CBS 6. What's going on, Sean?
I'm doing good. Oh, it's the feel good edition. Not Saturday yet, but we're feeling good. We're feeling
Absolutely.
good. I like that.
Yes,
the
sir.
Feel good edition of Couch Coach Live. I like that.
Yes, indeed. So so what's been going on, Sean? How's everything going?
Everything's going good. I mean, we're fighting through this pandemic day by day here at the sports department at CBS 6. But we're grinding through. If this was a normal year, we would be doing this interview earlier because I'll be out of the football game, our game of the week. But instead, COVID-19 said, slow your roll, and we're gonna slow it down just a little bit. So I'm here in the office talking to you, talking about all things Virginia sports and still keeping things going.
Yes, indeed. So before we get into that, I want to talk about like your journey, how you got to CBS 6, and then just people down the line that's have influenced you in your career.
Well, I grew up in Petersburg, about 35 minutes from Richmond. Graduated from Petersburg High, went to Richard Bland for a couple of years, then went to Virginia State. VSU, I should pull out my shirt, Trojan, but this college color day, I have my VSU orange and blue shirt. But went there, started in athletics in the athletic department, was a PA announcer for a little while. Shout out to Greg Goins, who was the sports information director there, who kind of got my foot in the door and doing something in the media field as the PA announcer for women basketball games. That eventually then led me to an internship at our radio station, WVST 91.3, was an intern there, became sports director for a few years there. And then it's all about networking. A friend of mine, the TV director at the time knew the sports director at Channel 6, and basically without my knowledge, sent him an email and said, look, our sports director needs to get out there. He needs to get out of Virginia State. He needs to get his foot in the door, and anything you have available will work for him. Like I said, not me knowing any of this. It started as freelancing in 2007, going to high school football games, shooting those, bringing it back to the station. Then one day in August, or actually late July of 2008, the weekend guy at the time left to continue his radio career. They needed a spot. I was freelancing still for a few months, and lo and behold, they offered me the job on the day I was anchoring. Right before, let me tell this funny story. 10 minutes before I was going on air, the news director at the time basically put it out there that we will offer you the job as a weekend sports anchor at Channel 6, and he showed me like the 3-year contract salary. And he said, you don't have to make your decision now, but we really want you to come. Now, mind you, I had to go on air in like 5 minutes, so it's almost like the poker face after what went down. And I was like, oh, really? So you're going to do this now before I go on air, that you're going to offer me the job? And then after, discussing it and talking, thinking about it, I was like, let's go ahead and make that move. Let's make that jump. It was a little scary because I hadn't done live, quote unquote, TV. We had a television show down at Virginia State, the Trojan Sports Review, which was always taped. But it was new. I was very comfortable at VSU, doing radio, doing our show there. But this was a new audience. Some were familiar with me, some were not. So it was a little different. But it's been 12 years now, 12 years last month, and we're still rolling here at CBS 6.
Yeah, man. Definitely congratulations on that. So
Appreciate
any other, like, as far as any like influence or somebody, like, as far as that you attribute to your career? I know you talked a few names. Anybody, like, as far as broadcasters that you emulated or what have you?
There were two that I emulated, but I had to give a shout out to my late partner, James Udell. He was the sports director at the time at WVST when I was an intern there. And it was me and 3 other people working with him. And he kind of gave us the avenue to do sports at the radio station, whether it was, we were helping with stats with football, or we were doing the women's basketball games and kind of leading them into the men's basketball games, or if it was a spring sports or shooting video for the games. He gave me that opportunity. And then after that, we became a team. When everybody else left, it was me and him for probably 5 or 6 years, maybe a little longer. We did all the football games. We did all the conference basketball games. We went to the CIAA tournament, had a blast. We traveled to Daytona Beach, Chicago, all of the schools in the CIAA. So he was the first one him and Greg Goins were the two at Virginia State that got me in the door. That was the first thing. And the national people that I kind of emulated were like some old school guys. I was a huge Pat Summerall fan growing up. Huge Pat Summerall fan. He had that baritone voice, very simple, didn't make himself the story. And he let John Madden be the guy. So me and James kind of coined that, I'm Pat, you're John. You're going to be exuberant, you're going to be crazy, and I'm just going to lead you in. And that was kind of like our stick. And that was kind of like my football guy. That was the guy I was trying to emulate it to. I had to be descriptive with radio, but I didn't want to be too over the top. I didn't want to be too loud and obnoxious and crazy at times. And for basketball, there were a couple guys. I'm still a big Kevin Harlan fan for basketball. I loved his descriptions. His vocabulary is like crazy. And so I told him, I met him at a Redskin game a few years ago, and I told him point blank, I said, I stole some of your stuff when I did radio. I stole if somebody was double teamed, he was caught in a straitjacket, or he was handcuffed or shackled, and those terms we probably can't use now in our society. But then I wanted to be very descriptive. I wanted the audience to, if they closed their eyes, I wanted them to really visualize what they were listening to. And I always said the best compliment I could get if I did radio was, you actually had me feel like I was at the game. And if I got that from you, and if I gave that to my audience, I was set. And so when I told Kevin that story, he just, started laughing. I said, I stole a lot from you, your diction sometimes if it was a big shot, the inflection of my voice, I would kind of use. And then there was a guy, Wayne Larrabee, for those who listened to the Chicago Bulls games on WGN, when they showed the Bulls games on TV, when somebody made a 3-point shot, he would say, ring it up. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. It's very, very short, very descriptive. And if it was a big shot, you can really inflict your voice. So I told him, I saw him at an NCAA tournament, and I said, yeah, big fan of your work. I told him where I was from, and he was like, they showed Bulls games in Richmond, Virginia. I was like, yeah. I said, with WGN, before the contract was taken away, they showed a lot of those basketball games on WGN, and we would get it on our cable system. And so I told him, I said, I would steal a little bit of that from him as well. And he kind of laughed and he appreciated it. So those were like the three that I kind of, pulled a little bit from, using, my voice and what I did, but kind of pull a little bit from each of those three. And I think it worked out from radio. I didn't hear a lot of negative stuff, but I do miss it a lot and wish, I had the opportunity to do some more radio play-by-play. But those were kind of like some of the influences. And TV, I was a big Stuart Scott fan. I didn't think what I could do, what he did, I could do, because that wasn't my style. But I loved what he did. I was trying to think. TV. Unfortunately, there was not a lot of influences of us with TV. You had Greg Gumbel, you had Brian Gumbel, you had Stuart Scott, you have Jay Harris now on SportsCenter. Ben Hamlin, a local guy, I would watch a lot with the competitor when I wasn't working at CBS 6. Guy on CNN, Fred Hickman, he used to be on there on Sports Tonight. They used to kind of compete with SportsCenter. I used to like his style a lot as well. But I think, for TV, I don't know if I really have somebody that looked like me, unfortunately, that I could say, I tailor my style. Maybe Jay Harris because he's very to the point. He doesn't give a lot of slang, a lot of catchphrases, but he's to the point. He gives you what you need in that story, and I hope I give that off to the audience who watches on CBS 6.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, CNN SI. Yeah, that's a
blast from the past.
yes, indeed. I definitely remember those. Yeah,
Dan Wright, and Fred Hickman, and Nick Charles. Yep. I used to watch them when Dan Patrick started on CNN.
Yeah, and was it Vince Giannelli?
Vince Giannelli was on there.
Yeah.
Storm started on CNN. Those you hear those names now. Unfortunately, I think Nick Charles passed away, but a lot of those guys who are now big time, like I said, Dan Patrick, Hannah Storm, Vince Cellini, all started on CNN Sports Tonight as the competitor to ESPN and SportsCenter back in the late 80s.
Yeah, and even to go back to your point with Harlan, yeah, and like you said, and for some odd reason, I don't know, for some odd reason, a couple times we had Minnesota Timberwolves games on the radio. And I remember, and then going back to your point, where I remember vividly, like he would put you in the arena.
Yeah,
it was very like descriptive, and he'll tell you, the Timberwolves are wearing the white shorts with the Timberwolves logo with the green stripe. I'm like, wow, I know what they're wearing. And
if you close, and that was his thing. It was like, if you close, and when I told him, to me, that's the best compliment a radio announcer can get, is when somebody comes up to you and say, "Oh, you did the game? You work for Virginia State, or you work with the T-Wolves? Man, you had me really feeling like I was in the arena. I might be driving my car going somewhere, but to have that feeling and to be so descriptive and so vivid, to have your listeners say, "Man, you had me feeling like I was there." It was like, that's like the ultimate compliment. And that's what I would try to do. Like, Virginia State wearing their road navy blue jerseys with the orange stripes up the shorts, with the navy blue shorts, orange letters and numerals. You want to have that audience. You want them to close their eyes and know exactly what they're seeing, which direction the action is going. If the crowd is standing, people that like, oh my goodness, this guy, was leaped out off the bench off of that dunk, or the bench stood when somebody made a 3-pointer. It's like, you want to kind of give them every possible visual you have in your time before your color guy takes over, to let them know, okay, this is what happened. This is what you can see along with the action on the court or on the field. Yeah,
absolutely. And one of my favorite things that you guys do here at CBS 6, Final Score Friday. I think Final Score Friday is always my highlight of the week. And of course, that's the highlights of high school football action here in Richmond, Virginia. So, now we don't have it this year, unfortunately, it's due to, circumstances beyond our control. But I just wanted your thoughts on just the talent in this area in prep football and how it essentially stacks and against other states. Your thoughts on just the talent here.
They may think I'm going to be biased with this, but I think the talent in the 804, the 757, the 540, the 703, it can match up with any state in the country. We talked about it off air. I mean, we got guys from your old high school, Highland Springs, that have done successfully well in Power 5 schools, Louisville, Wake Forest, Clemson. Malcolm Green is going to Clemson himself after committing to LSU or thought about LSU. Kids going to Navy, Army. We got some of the private schools going to, Wilton Speight from Collegiate. Had started in Michigan, went to UCLA. Trying to think. We got guys from Benedictine going to Florida, North Carolina, Penn State. I mean, you just look at the rosters from major Power 5 schools, and you will see a lot of guys from 804 or the state of Virginia that have done well. Virginia, in the past, they got kids from our area. Billy Kemp, the fourth, is looking to make a name for himself at UVA. Tech this year, Rayshawn Ashby from LC Bird. Jaden Payu from LC Bird, a walk-on, a redshirt freshman who's expected to do big things at wide receiver. At North Carolina State, Isaiah Moore, who also comes from LC Bird. I can go on and on with school. Petersburg, their starting quarterback committed to Western Carolina. You're probably saying Western Carolina? They probably has got a steal. He's probably one of the top quarterbacks in the state, probably that you haven't heard because he's from Petersburg. Knock on wood, my alma mater. But he's the all-time leading passer in Petersburg history. Offensive Player of the Year in his Region 3A as a sophomore. He's going to a good school. Travion Henderson, the number one recruit in the 2020, number one in the state in the 2021 class. Going to Ohio State, were early enrolled in January. All he did was set an area record with 54 touchdowns, over 2,500 all-purpose yards. Probably the best player in the state of Virginia by far. Gatorade State Player of the Year says it all for him. I could go on and on. I'm missing a lot of kids from East Carolina. Kids have gone to East Carolina from Thomas Dale, from Matoaka. You got kids from Verina. Just the young man just past week committed to James Madison and Jalen Walker. I know I'm missing a few, but I'm just giving you ideas of not only Division I Power 5 schools, but you got arguably the best conference in FCS getting kids from William and Mary. Transfers. Cole Blackman, who played at Hanover, then at Lee, went to Virginia, has transferred to William and Mary. Trying to think, another kid from the quarterback from Thomas Dale last season. His name escapes me, but he's going to Richmond. So we got a lot of kids, and we can't forget the kids from Oscar Smith, Lake Taylor, Hampton from the 757, Stonebridge and Westfield in the 703, and down in Southwest Virginia. A lot of great talent in this state, and these schools now have, I guess maybe I realized, it's not just the 757 and the 703. Those Power 5 schools have come to the 804 specifically, and have gotten some really good talent, and talent that has done well at the respective schools who have gone on to get drafted. I think this past year, 3 players from the 804 got drafted. Becton got drafted. Wallace got drafted. Darrell Taylor, who went to Hopewell, got drafted. And all 3 made history. They were the highest drafted players coming from high school. Taylor was drafted in the 2nd round, and then Becton, a 1st-round pick, Wallace, a 4th-round pick. All 3 were the highest drafted players from their respective high schools. And we talk in Hollis Springs, long-standing tradition. You can go back to, Macho Harris. At the time, he was the highest ranked or highest drafted player coming out of the 5th round. But Wallace and Becton did a little bit better this past year. And like I said, Taylor out of Hopewell, taken in the 2nd round, highest drafted, just in front of Monsanto Pope. That's a name from the past, who was drafted, I want to say, in the 4th round by Denver a few years ago. So there's a lot of good talent here in the state of Virginia. I would match it up with any other state. You could say Texas, Florida, California, New York, wherever. I would stack up the players from Virginia up against anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think those 3 guys are going to make immediate impacts in the NFL, I think, next year too. So I think that's going to be another thing too.
A lot of people in Philly really loved the Wallace pick for what he did in Clemson, and they are raving about what Becton, just his size, his athleticism with that size. They're expecting him to be the starting left tackle and protect Sam Darnold's blind side in New York. And Taylor, great year, great career, even though it was a little bit of an injury at Tennessee. But they're expecting a lot from him as well. 2nd round pick, you're expected to come in. You're expected to not only maybe if not compete for a starting job, but to be a starter on that defense. Taylor's got all the physical tools. He had a foot injury at Tennessee, but he's got all the physical tools to be a great defensive player in the NFL if given the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about let's go to a little bit of college. So we got 2 teams in our backyard. We have UVA and Virginia Tech, and I think these 2 teams are going to make some noise in the Coastal Division, where I think the Coastal Division, the Atlantic Coast Conference, is so wide open.
Really, you think so?
Per se. Actually, what's so funny? I'm a Carolina guy, so I think Carolina gonna take it.
Okay. A
I'm
lot
a
of people
USC
are high.
guy.
A lot of people are high on Carolina. They think they're the class of the conference. I've got to see it though. I've
Yeah,
heard this before. I know Mac Brown did a great job last season, and they lost some close games, and you just wonder if those close games turn in their favor this year. But to me, I got to see it.
yeah.
I got to see them win those close games against divisional opponents to say, okay, Carolina, you're the team. I would always go with the champ until otherwise. I go with the champ. UVA lost so much talent last season, and on the preseason poll, they're 9th in the conference. Tech is 5th. No UVA player made the preseason team, and only one for Tech made it, and that's Ashby, who I mentioned, the kid, young linebacker from LC Bird, that's played tremendous down at Virginia Tech. I think he led the team in tackles the last 2 years, coming from the linebacker position. A lot of people are high on North Carolina. I would hope a state school wins it. I don't know if this is going to be the year. You wonder about Brennan Armstrong, who's going to be the starter for UVA. First test right out of the bat. It's going to be Tech on September 19th for the Commonwealth Cup in Blacksburg. They lost a lot of talent at the receiver position. We kind of talked about that off camera with Joe Reed, Olamide Zacchaeus. You're expecting Billy Kemp. He's now got to step up and be either a 1 or a 2. Offensive line should be solid. Defense should look good. Secondary, I'm maybe a little bit concerned. They lost some talent in the back end of that defense with Bryce Hall getting drafted by the Jets in April. I just wonder, and it's going to start with Bryce Perkins, losing Bryce Perkins, who did it all at UVA. I just wonder if they lost too much talent to turn around and now have those expectations, even though they're low. They are the defending Coastal champs. They made it to the Orange Bowl last year, and you just wonder, is that bullseye, even though they're predicted to finish 9th, is that bullseye going to be on their back? And will every opponent play their best game against the defending Coastal champs? We'll see September 19th with Tech. And I just wonder how it has. Tech also lost a lot. They lost a lot from transfers. They lost some players from opting out of the season. Hendon Hooker, I believe, is going to be the starting quarterback, who played well during the course of the season and actually did play well in the Commonwealth Cup at UVA last November. Just unfortunately had a couple of turnovers and they lost the game. Defense, new regime. It's not Bud Foster. How will they play now with the new defensive coordinator? Tech might be one of those teams you probably would have to watch out for. I think that the litmus test would be September 19th, how they will play at home against UVA. If they win that game, I would keep an eye out on Virginia Tech. If they lose it, then there could be some questions the rest of the year for Tech.
Yeah. And I think both these teams can be kind of like the spoiler teams, where, in as far as can, because it's something bizarre about the Coastal, where it just seems like everybody beats each other up.
Yeah, I think they've had a different division champ the last 7 years. I believe that's the stat. And I think they're going to have another one this year. I can't see UVA repeating unless all the breaks fall their way. But if not, there'll be a new divisional champ this year in the ACC Coastal.
Absolutely. So let's talk about my beloved Washington football team. So before we get into the outlook for the season, on a scale of 1 to 10, how shocked were you this morning to find out that Adrian Peterson was released?
I would probably say a 5. It would have been higher if I didn't know that, number one, when Peterson came to Washington, he wasn't going to be the starter. Darius Geis was going to be the starter. Jay Gruden had said that Geis was going to be the starter that offseason. And Peterson was almost basically like an insurance policy. If Geis goes down or if he gets nicked up, we got a Hall of Fame backup to help us out. Turned out like clockwork. Geis goes down. Peterson first year rushes for over 1,000 yards. And now we got, okay, let's see what happens the following year. Next year, they're going to, I won't say split it, but it would be like Peterson might be the number one guy, but we are going to give Geis that opportunity. And they did that in week 1 when they deactivated Peterson. Geis was a starter. He plays solid, but he gets nicked again. Peterson comes in, almost rushes for 1,000 yards again last year. And we're thinking, okay, Geis gets waived after his issues off the field. And you basically have, other than Peyton Barber, a lot of inexperience. You basically got 3 rookies, essentially. McKissick, Bryce Love didn't play last year because of injury, and the guy they drafted out of Memphis, Antonio Gibson, who they are high on. So we're thinking at least running back, you're solid. You got AP and you got Barber, who could be your third down back, and you can slowly groom these new kids into the system. So to me, the surprise is a 5, just because I thought Peterson was going to be, the bell cow, and then it would slowly bring up those other guys. But in Rivera's system, he loves a lot of versatility. He loves that back that not only can be the bell cow rushing the football, he can also catch passes out of the backfield. He can also pick up blocks. He didn't think, to me, by making this decision a week before the start of the season, he felt that Barber must have done something really well at practice. Antonio Gibson may have really opened his eyes and felt like we drafted him specifically for this offense. And maybe he didn't want to disrespect Peterson to the point where we're going to give you 12, 15 carries and have your role diminish to allow these other guys to be in the spotlight. And doing it now, waiving him now right before cut day, gives now Peterson an opportunity to be a free agent and see if contenders will now want him to come to their team. And to me, I think New England should be the team that gets him. I said that earlier today. A lot of people kind of say, but to me, New England is, I think the Patriots would be the perfect fit for Adrian Peterson.
Yeah. Special, coupled with Cam Newton in that offense. Yeah.
You got 2 guys that are looking to prove
themselves
people wrong. You got a coach that, to me, designs his game plan not season to season, week to week. We're going to design our game plan based on who we're going to play. And if we got a team that is a little skeptical, suspect against the run, we got a Hall of Fame running back that's going to run it down your throat. And the fact that does not put a lot of pressure on the wide receivers to make immediate impacts when outside of Julian Edelman, you got a lot of unproven commodities in New England with a quarterback that just came to the team 7 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just handed the AP. Let him do his thing and allow those other guys to kind of play off of Adrian Peterson. That's what I would do. But we'll see what Belichick has up his sleeve. I know he's got Michelle and James White, but to me, if you get a chance to get a Hall of Famer for a 1-year deal on the cheap, you take it and see what happens. You still got those 2 guys in third down situations to catch passes out of the backfield, put them in a slot formation as well, and let Peterson, be your 2 or 3 down back if necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. So with this team being 3-13 last year, you would honestly think it can't get no worse. It's up from here. So
right.
What are your thoughts on this upcoming season for my beloved Washington football team?
It's gonna be a long season, and that's speaking from a Redskins fan. I said Washington football. It's gonna be a long season.
Yeah.
I having covered this team now since 2008. I used to be that over the top fan, like, they're gonna go 10-6, 9-7. They'll make the playoffs regardless of all of the talent. Nah. Too much to me. It's too much controversy. Too much youth. You didn't fill positions of need in certain spots. They still need a tight end, even though you got Jeremy Sprinkle and Richard Rodgers and Logan Thomas. You need a bona fide tight end. And no disrespect to them, but they're not what you think would be a number 1 receiver, a number 1 tight end. You still need a number 2, opposite of Terry McLaurin, who who did well as a rookie, but now the best corners are going to be on him each and every week. So how is he going to play as the number 1 receiver? The running back now is a concern because you don't have Adrian Peterson. So now who's your starter? Is it going to be Barber? Is it McKissick? Do you put Gibson in that spot, or did they just say it's starter by name and we're just going to rotate all four? I don't know. I don't know what you do in that position. Left side of the offensive line, major question mark. The right side, solid. I like Sheriff a lot. I like Moses. But you're not 100% sold on the right side because you don't know about Sheriff's status next year. He's going to be a free agent. They only got him with the franchise or the tender this year. So he's going to be playing for a contract. So I'm assuming he would have one of his best years knowing he's playing for a big contract. But the left side of that offensive line is major question marks. Major question marks. Christian and possibly Wes Martin are going to be your starters. I got concerns. I got concerns in the safety position. I mean, Rivera and the defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, high on Troy Apke to be the starter. I don't know. You're asking, again, a guy who has never started a game in the NFL to come in week one and play opposite Landon Collins, who he says this new 4-3 will tailor and is best suited for this group, this personnel. I hope he's right. I have been calling for it, and a lot of fans have been calling for the change from a 3-4 to a 4-3 for years. They got the 4-3. Now we'll see. Was it the system or was it the players? We'll find out this year if that's the case. But to me, the strength is going to be the defensive line. You've got Jonathan Allen. You got Matt Ioannidis. You got Derod Payne. You got Tim Settle. You got Ryan Kerrigan. You got Ryan Anderson. You got first-round pick Chase Young. I mean, he can go 8 deep. You can make 2 defensive lines just with those guys alone, and hopefully they can apply some pressure on the quarterback this year and kind of mask the secondary because you got Kendall Fuller back. You paid him a lot of money, 4 years, $40 million. Who's going to play opposite him in the secondary? Is it going to be Jimmy Moreland, or is he going to play in the slot? Is it going to be Fabian Moreau? Who knows? There are too many question marks on this team, and it's too much youth right now. So, Washington fans, and you're one, I'm one. 3-13. I'm gonna say 5. I would say 5-11. The schedule is brutal. That first week in December, those 3 weeks in December after Thanksgiving, you play Dallas on the road, Pittsburgh, and then the 49ers. When you got Trent Williams, Kyle Shanahan, and Jordan Reed on the 49ers looking for revenge, that's the last game in that stretch. You got to fly cross country.
Yep.
5-11. If they break even and go 8-8, Rivera should be coach of the year, hands down.
Absolutely.
They said Belichick should be if he wins the division. If he wins the division, okay, with what he's got. If Rivera can go 8-8 with this group and all of those question marks and dealing with cancer after a 3-13 season, he goes 8-8. If he doesn't win it outright, he should be co-coach of the year because that would be amazing if he can get this team to 500.
Absolutely. And I find that holiday, that Thanksgiving, and then that Sunday before Christmas is like where you really gonna see the identity of this team because they're gonna deal with so much adversity, and then that's just the springboard going forward for 2021. So
that's gonna be the point where you see a lot of guys playing for the livelihood. I think if they're struggling, that'll be. Would that be week 10, week 11, 12 or something? Yeah, something like that. Week 10, something like that. If they're floundering 2-7, 3-6, you might hear Rivera, put a foot in their butt, talking about, look, we got X amount of games left. It's going to start our season. Your possible career starts Thanksgiving against Dallas, and then Pittsburgh, and then San Francisco. They still would have to play Carolina, Rivera's former team, during that stretch, and end the year on the road at Philly, who could be playing for a playoff spot by that time in the East. So you never know. I mean, like I said, that December schedule is absolutely brutal. Starting on Thanksgiving, absolutely brutal. So to me, I'm hoping 5-11. I think they will be well coached. I think Rivera will put them in situations. I don't want to discredit what Jay Gruden did. But I think, the message kind of got stale near the end. I think Rivera will have them well prepared. I just don't think the talent is there. I mean, some people have them as the worst team in the league. I don't know if I would go that far. They probably will be last in the NFC East. But I think 5-11. What I said, you heard it here. If they go 8-8 with that team, he's coach of the year. Period.
Yep. I agree. But yeah, so who has been your favorite athlete that you've interviewed?
Wow. Favorite athlete I interviewed. Counting my time at Virginia State too?
Yeah. Just your whole career.
Whole career. I've been wow. I have interviewed Jerry the King Lawler once. We did about a 30-minute interview. He threw out the first pitch at a baseball game with the Petersburg Generals. It was a team in the Coastal Plain League before they folded. Came out, threw out the first pitch, and he came on our broadcast. And we went nonstop, 30 minutes, no breaks. We kind of inserted and weaved in the game while I was doing the interview with him and talking about his career and everything like that. So that was a treat to have the King. He had the crown and everything. He sat right beside me for 30 minutes and had a ball. Let's see. There's a lot of athletes. I'm trying to think of my favorite. You know what? I interviewed Magic Johnson. And being a diehard Laker fan, that was a treat. He was here. He spoke at an event. Wow. This is 2020. I would say 8 or 9 years ago. Spoke at an event at Capital One, downtown Richmond. Not a lot of basketball talk, but he, the business side. Came out, spoke about the business side, and somebody took a picture of me. He was walking around the convention room, and we were about this close. He walked right in front of my camera shot, and I kind of had to take a step back to say, "Whoa, okay." But when he walked past me, I'm like, "Wait a minute, Magic freaking Johnson just walked right past me." And then I got a chance to interview him one-on-one. We went into this other room, and I got a chance to ask him like 5 questions. It was right when he became co-owner or minority owner of the LA Dodgers. Aspire TV had just started up. So we talked a little bit about that, how cool it was to basically be the man of Aspire. You have a channel. We talked about the Lakers. So looking at him, and I'm that close, and I mean it was yeah. And even though I would have said Flair, but I haven't interviewed Flair yet because he's the guy. But being a Laker fan, he would be 1. Doug Williams would be 2. I've interviewed him a few times, and I told him the story when he won the Super Bowl. I still have the football card. It's got to be in my house somewhere. The Topps card that kind of has that painter's painting print.
Yeah.
When he just won the Super Bowl. And I told him the story. I was like, I had the chicken pox when they beat Denver. And I went to my neighbor's house across the street. And the policeman is a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. He had a room allocated just nothing about Cowboy stuff. Old cornflake boxes, jerseys, footballs, helmets. So he lets his neighbor, a Redskin fan, I'm going to still say Redskin because at the time they were the Redskins, go and stay at his house and watch them play in the Super Bowl against Denver, and they're down 10-0, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like not over. It's like 83 all over again with the Raiders when they got beat, and they put on that show in that second quarter, and just him and I talking about that, and him telling the story that he told on TV. He was like, "There's no way Jay Schrader was going to get in that game." After I twisted my knee, he was like, "There's no way he's getting in that game," and just to hear him talk to me about that and just. Those two, just being a Washington fan and a Lakers fan, and I had the chance to speak to, in person, one-on-one, Magic Johnson and Doug Williams. I've interviewed Joe Theismann as well, but, guys that look like us,
yeah,
and I got Magic Johnson and Doug Williams. Those are probably the two highlights of my career at Channel 6 was the opportunity to talk to those guys one-on-one. Because when you get one-on-one, it becomes a little more personal. Or personal, they don't, I won't say have their guard up, but you can ask the questions that you've always wanted to ask and not have the competitor kind of take the sound and use it for their sportscast. So this was me and Magic talking about some good stuff, and then like I said, me and Doug talking about it, and then off camera we talked for like 10 or 15 minutes. So yeah, those were some great moments. Two top moments to get those two one-on-one.
Absolutely. So what's your favorite events that you've covered?
Well, the CIAA tournament will always be my heart. I covered, I went to the tournaments from 97 to 2008, every one. From the last couple of years in Winston, all of Raleigh, and the first 3 years in Charlotte. And then I got back there in 2017 and had gone to three of the last four in Charlotte. So CIAA tournament would always have a special place in my heart. Love that. Love the experience of being around our own, being around some HBCU grads. Even though, the main focus is not basketball, it's the networking, the friendship, the camaraderie amongst our own. Even though there are rivals on the court, you get to, walk around. It's like a party. It's a party, but it's a basketball tournament taking place in a party. So that's always going to be one of my favorite events to cover, CIAA tournament. The first Washington playoff game I got to cover was 2012, which was RG3's rookie year when they lost to Seattle. I got to see that in person. So that was a highlight, being a Washington fan, to see my first ever NFL playoff game. I saw that one. I'm 0 for 2 because I saw their last two. I saw them against Seattle, and I saw them against Green Bay in person. But those are big because, like I said, Washington fan, you always saw it on TV. I wish I got to be at RFK for a playoff game because that would have been just amazing. FedEx is nowhere near RFK. Even though I've never been, but hearing the stories and watching it on TV, FedEx is, no comparison to RFK. The national championship with UVA, I got to cover that whole run from the ACC tournament in Charlotte all the way to Minneapolis when they beat Texas Tech. That was a great moment. The VCU Final Four, I got to cover. I did get to go to the Super Bowl. I didn't go inside the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta, but I got to cover it and got to see the Super Bowl experience, what takes place that Friday before when all of the fans come. It's almost like kind of like the NBA experience, or if you're a wrestling fan, the WrestleMania experience. You see all of the they have this area where you can take a picture of the Super Bowl trophy. It's in a glass case, but you can stand beside the Super Bowl trophy and take a picture with it. And also they have a display where they have every Super Bowl ring from the first one to that most recent one, which Atlanta was Super Bowl 52, I believe, 53. So they had the first 51 or 52 Super Bowl rings on display. So that was really cool to see. But I would say, like I said, CIAA be one of my favorites. The two Final Four national championship runs with VCU and UVA. The playoff games with Washington. And also the state championships for high school football and basketball. Those, if you're at a major market, you don't cover the high school sports scene. But for us here, these crowds are just as passionate as going to an NFL game. And when Hollow Springs won their 4 straight, I got to cover the first, the second, and the fourth. And I'm sorry, the first, the third, and the fourth. The one at Scott Stadium when they won their first. Then the last two at Hampton. I got to cover Manchester's first state championship. Who else? LC Bird's run. I got to cover 2 of their 3 when they three-peated. I got to cover Megan Walker's last high school game at Monacan when they won a state title. When they beat, it was either Lake Taylor or Kings Fork. Was one of those 2, and they won by a point. Gino Ariemos at the Siegel Center, looking down, watching the game, watching his recruit score the last 16 Monacan points to win the state title. Those crowds at the Siegel Center to see that. They sold out to see a girls basketball game.
Yeah,
you don't get that a lot across the country, but 7,600 people came to the Siegel Center to see the other games. But that was one of the last games they got to see. They got to see Megan Walker play her final game, high school game, win a three-peat. So those are some great moments. I got to see their three-peat. I got to see Cosby do 3 in a row as well, and then they won a 4th after that. Monacan won a 4th after their three-peat. Trying to think. Actually, the rivalry games for college football. I've done 2 Commonwealth Cups for UVA and Tech. This past one, when UVA stormed the field and they finally won the Commonwealth Cup, they broke the streak, and I got to be there. That was really cool to see, 15 years just drift away. It was a scene I will never forget. CAA championships when VCU won the last one before they went to the Atlantic 10. Same thing. They stormed the court. Stuff like that. It can be scary, but there is something there when they storm the court or they storm the field. It's like the scariest thing you'll ever see, but it could be one of the most exciting things to cover because it's just all of that passion and that excitement. You work so hard to, like I say, either break a streak, or win a championship, and it's right there. You're in the middle of it. Yes, it's great. Those are some good moments covering that.
Absolutely, yeah. And knock on wood, hopefully we'll be at RFK. It's as far as the new stadium.
Oh yeah. You think
hopefully,
if they can do a newer RFK at the old site of where it is, I would love it. But it's going to take a lot of red tape to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, one of the tapes got cleared, so the name changed. So baby steps, I guess.
That's the first domino.
Right.
The first domino was the name and the logo, so that's huge. So we'll see, a few years down the line, and that's what the team president said. We want a new stadium. He said when I talked to him. That was another one I forgot. Well, he's not an athlete, but to talk to the team president, African American black guy, cool. Yeah. That's one of the things he said. What he wants to do in his tenure as team president is I want to get a new stadium for the team. So let's, hopefully from his mouth to God's ears, make that happen.
I know. So we'll round it out tonight. So I want to know your top 5 athletes. It doesn't have to be athletic ability, just your top 5 athletes that you like, your top 5.
That I've covered or just as a fan like?
Fan covered anything, and just your personal top 5.
Well, in no particular order, I'm gonna put Kobe in that mix. Just his mentality, his never say die attitude on the court, refusing to lose. Number one. He's on that list. Magic's gonna be on that list. Those are 2. Wow. Athletes that I've liked or covered or just as a fan. I'm gonna put Flair.
Okay.
I am a wrestling fan, and he's not only how he performed, but how he spoke, how he dressed. He played that part to a T. So I will put Flair up there, and I know there are gonna be some guys I'm missing if I do this. I'm going to say, wow, a favorite athlete I covered, well, shoot, there'll be 2. 2 when I was at Virginia State, but there's a lot more. But 2 that I really, we're tight to this day. DeMond Thompson. He high school. God, let me think. I don't want to get his high school wrong, but let me just say, and I said this when I was on air at Virginia State, and I had said this to anybody that would listen. If I had to pay to go to a Virginia State game in his prime, I would have paid to see DeMond Thompson. And a media guy don't like to pay for any game, none. But it was like as soon as he touched the ball, you thought it was 6. You thought it was 6. That's one. PJ Barry was another one. I'm probably gonna go over 5, but he had that same type of electricity. And I had a chance to be the MC when PJ Barry got inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he kind of had the joke like when I would do my highlights, or if I said it on the air, and I said if he was in the open field, PJ. And he said that during his speech, and I kind of nodded. I was like, no, I did do that. And he kind of acknowledged that. But, just guys that, you covered on the field, but then you got to know them really, really well off the field. You got to know their families, his mom and dad, with DeMond, his son, his wife, who was a cheerleader at VSU. I'm sorry, woo-woo, not cheerleader, woo-woo. I apologize. But people like, athletes like that, coaches like that I've had covered. I've covered Megan Walker and got to know her really well and know her family really well. But I mean, if we do 5, I would say PJ and DeMond would be on that list because I saw them, have some amazing performances at Virginia State that, I wish I had the videotape to show and put on YouTube because, man, they were special. They were special at Virginia State, no question.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Sean, where can they find you on social media?
They can go to Twitter. My handle is CBS at CBS6 Sports Sean. That's my Twitter. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can do so at SKR1125. My Facebook page, my work page is Sean Robertson WTVR CBS 6. You can follow me on all 3. And you can catch me every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday here on CBS 6. The Feel Good editions on Saturday and Sundays. And then during the high school, if there was a high school football season, we'll preview a lot of the area teams, kind of, let you hear from the coaches how they're dealing with the pandemic, how they're dealing with no fall football, how they're preparing, how they are getting their kids prepared for a spring season. And, maybe the possibility of some kids that may decide to opt out or, if they commit, they don't play or early enroll. So a lot to have to cover during the year, even though there's no fall football for us for high school. Yeah. But, we got college with Tech and UVA in the fall. We got the Washington football team next Sunday, September 13th, home to the Eagles. I'll be in front of a television because we can't go and cover, can't shoot the game.
That's right.
So there's no, and that's the reason we go. We go there to get our footage. We go there to talk to the coaches, to go in the locker room and talk to the guys. And with COVID-19, can't do that. So I'll be in front of a TV and show the highlights on the Feel Good on Saturdays and Sundays. So, yeah, CBS at CBS 6 Sports Sean, SKR 1125 on Twitter. On Instagram. Twitter is at CBS 6 Sports Sean, and on Facebook at Sean Robertson WTVR CBS 6.
Absolutely. We definitely thank you for coming on to this week's Couch Coach Live. We're definitely looking forward to seeing you this weekend on CBS 6. And
my pleasure, man. I appreciate the time. You didn't throw me any hard questions. I'm glad. I didn't want to sweat in front of the audience. But yeah, this was great. I appreciate you reaching out and inviting me on to the Feel Good edition of Couch Coach Live.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And man, we got to do this again, man.
Yeah, I would love that. Just let me know.
Absolutely. So this has been this week's Couch Coach Live. We appreciate everybody for checking us out this week. And we out.